Let's take you back to central London, where the Prime Minister David Cameron is going to be speaking about Europe.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for that welcome. Almost 3 years ago, I made a speech about Europe. I argued that the European Union needed to reform if it was to meet the challenges of the 21st century. I argued that Britain's best future lay within a reformed European Union if the necessary changes could be agreed. And I promised the British people that if I was re-elected as Prime Minister, we would have an in-out referendum and the final say on whether our national and economic security is better protected by remaining in the European Union or by leaving. This is perhaps the most important decision that the British people will have to take at the ballot box in our lifetimes. You will have to judge what is best for you and your family, for your children and grandchildren, for our country, for our future. It will be your decision whether to remain in the EU on the basis of the reforms we secure or whether we leave. Your decision. Nobody else's. Not politicians, not parliaments, not lobby groups, not mine. Just you. You, the British people, will decide. At that moment, you'll hold this country's destiny in your hands. This is a huge decision for our country, perhaps the biggest we'll make in our lifetimes. And it will be the final decision. So to those who suggest that a decision in the referendum to leave would merely produce another stronger renegotiation and then a second referendum in which Britain could stay, I say, think again. Your decision. Nobody else's. Not politicians, not parliaments, not lobby groups, not mine. Just you. You, the British people, will decide. The renegotiation is happening right now, and the referendum that follows will be a once-in-a-generation choice, an in or out referendum. When the British people speak, their voice will be respected, not ignored. If we vote to leave, then we will leave. There'll not be another renegotiation and another referendum. So I say to my European counterparts with whom I'm negotiating, this is our only chance to get this right, for Britain and for the whole European Union. And I say to those who are thinking about voting to leave, think very carefully because this choice cannot be undone.
Now, Mr. Speaker, this is a vital decision for the future of our country. And I believe we should also be clear that it is a final decision. An idea has been put forward that if the country votes to leave, we could have a second renegotiation and perhaps another referendum. Mr. Speaker, I won't dwell on the irony that some people who want to vote to leave apparently want to use a leave vote to remain, but such an approach... But such an approach also ignores more profound points about democracy, diplomacy and legality. This is a straight democratic decision, staying in or leaving, and no government can ignore that. Having a second renegotiation followed by a second referendum is not on the ballot paper. This is a straight democratic decision, staying in or leaving, and no government can ignore that. Having a second renegotiation, followed by a second referendum, is not on the ballot paper. And for a Prime Minister to ignore the express will of the British people to leave the EU would not just be wrong, it would be undemocratic. On the diplomacy, the idea that other European countries would be ready to start a second negotiation is for the birds. Many are under pressure for what they have already agreed. Then there is the legality, and I want to spell out this point for the House carefully, because it is important. If the British people vote to leave, there's only one way to bring that about, and that is to trigger Article 50 of the treaties and begin the process of exit. And the British people would rightly expect that that should start straight away. Let me be absolutely clear about how this works. It triggers a 2-year time period to negotiate the arrangements for exit. At the end of this period, if no agreement is in place, then exit is automatic unless every one of the 27 other EU member states agrees to a delay. And we should be clear that this process is not an invitation to rejoin, it is a process for leaving.
My Lords, I am most grateful to the noble Lord McNally for his generous comments. And I refer students of Brexit, the Brexit saga, to what I said in your Lordship's House on the 30th of January, the 16th of May and the 20th of November last year, and indeed on many occasions over the last 25 years. My Lords, the burden of my recent song has been that our politicians and bureaucrats have never done a commercial deal in their lives, and so don't understand the strength of our hand in Brussels or how to play it. I have recently come to see that our political media suffers from the same disability. Noise, my Lords, is now directed against the supposed horrors of leaving the EU on the 29th of March without a deal. But I would have thought that the speech here today from the noble Lord Lilly, and the paper he published via Global Britain and Labour Leave on the 7th of January, entitled 30 Truths About Leaving on WTO Terms, together with yesterday's paper from Economists for Free Trade, No Deal is the Best Deal for Britain, should comprehensively close all that nonsense down. If those who in truth want to reverse the referendum result do not agree with those papers, perhaps they would publish a rebuttal, point by point and author by author. I look forward to reading it, not very hopefully, my Lords, because they can't. So, my Lords, no deal is fine, but I come back to a concept which is even cleaner and simpler. The government should accept that it will never get a deal out of the Commission which respects our referendum result, because the Commission's main aim in life is to keep its project of European integration afloat, and if we break free and make a success of our restored independence, that aim will be even more damaged than it is already. So, my Lords, we should resile from clauses 2 to 5 of Article 50, cease dealing with the Commission, and make a generous offer to the real people of Europe through the Council of Ministers. Those real people, my Lords, are after all our friends, whereas the Commission is not. We should offer them reciprocal residence for a period to be agreed, our continuing security support from GCHQ and our membership of the Five Eyes, and continuing free trade together, but under the WTO instead of the Luxembourg Court. My Lords, that offer would be generous because there are some 3.5 million EU citizens living here, and only some 1.2 million of our people living there. And because if our offer of continuing free trade is not accepted, and we are forced to trade on normal WTO terms, their exporters will pay us some 13.5 billion in new tariffs, and our exporters will pay Brussels some 5.5 billion